Welcome back. What separates Batman from the criminals he swears to take down? Well, it's his no-kill rule. A rule that he hasn't always had. No, Batman used to carry around a pistol and just dome people. Not the hero we needed, or the one we deserved. Alas, nearly a century on from Batman's last confirmed lethal usage of a gun, we're here to take Batman back to his roots. Back to a time before the world decided it would be fun if Batman killing these degenerate criminals became outlawed, and thanks to a suggestion on both a live stream and a community post from the man himself, random idea for an Arkham challenge, do a run of Asylum where you try to get as many people as possible indisputably killed by knocking them off of buildings, ledges into bottomless pits. Here we are, in the asylum and ready to rid Gotham of as many criminals as possible. For the first 5 minutes of the video, we'll be using code words for game-ending enemies, so I can actually make some money from this video, because YouTube won't like if I say certain words this early on, but trust me, we get pretty matter-of-fact later. So here are the rules. Every time an enemy can be sent back to the lobby, they must be sent back to the lobby. Eliminations will be counted on a play-by-play basis. The game obviously never tells you if someone has been eliminated, so if an enemy falls, is thrown, or is dragged over a high ledge, is ran over or hit by a Titan thug and is quote-unquote knocked out, electrocuted, thrown into the abyss, or otherwise taken out of an encounter by means that could feasibly eliminate someone, it counts. And if you disagree with this criteria, it doesn't matter because this whole video is a glorified shitpost. Rule 3, subscribe. We need to hit 5k before the end of the year or Batman will throw me into the abyss. So without further ado, welcome to the Batman Arkham Asylum serial killer run. To absolutely no one's surprise, there are no enemies to fight for the first 10 minutes of the game, so no eliminations. We walk through the Asylum, taking in the sights, sounds and smells of the most inviting house in Liverpool, as we further enter the asylum, and eventually Joker escapes, leading us to our first fight. It's worth noting I decided to do this run on hard, not to flex or anything because I'm awful at these games, but it means the enemies will be more resilient and thus allow us to get our combo up a bit easier for some upgrades we'll acquire later on down the line. You might think these guys are also the first eliminations, and so did I, but my sweet summer child, I hadn't made the rules yet and spent 15 minutes trying to kick these guys over the edge, and despite a few close calls, they just weren't getting enough airtime, and it just didn't work, so we pivoted, adapted, and eventually just shocked them to death, leading to our first 7 eliminations by way of electrocution. We find our next 2 victims, but they can't be snuffed out, so are left to sleep in the corner. I tried to lead them to an electrified door or ledge, but got locked in the hallway. So despite smashing the back of this man's skull in, he's probably still alive as we head to take Zaz down, who doesn't die by our hands. Our job tonight isn't to stop the Joker's plan to create an army of Banes, it's to make his men wish they weren't born. So we continue through the vents of the asylum and eventually find ourselves in the Joker's gas room. We leave these men to die, but have to purify the air to continue, so we are still at 7 eliminations. But 2 victims try and rush us, but are met with a painful and shocking death as they're fried for their insolence, which takes our count to 9 eliminations. We eventually catch up to Jonkler, who laughs at our pitiful kill count, so we try to add him to it, but he's too quick and sends a platinum puller after us. Look at the side of that arm. He dies from heart failure, but we did not induce it, so we don't get a kill, but we do get our newest best friend, the special combo throw. This neat little addition to our skill set will become very handy later. It means we can directionally throw enemies off ledges, into each other, and when combined with some upgrades later, it becomes one half of our deadly duo. The other half will come later. We find out Officer Balls has kidnapped Jimmy G, and so begin our quest to find him. These 2 guys get to live, and we find Officer Balls' whiskey flask, which leaves a trail for us to follow. We track the trail to an elevator, which comes down to us slightly too quickly because it smashes, and so we have to climb the inner workings of the Asylum, and when we get to the top we get a few more victims. I tried chucking these bozos down the elevator shaft, but invisible walls be damned, it just wouldn't work. I tried everything and they just wouldn't fall. But luckily for us, I made a shocking discovery and was able to successfully add these 5 to our count. I know what you, the hyper-intelligent commenter, is typing right about now. Wow, you're relying too heavily on the electric fences. This is cheating. It doesn't kill them. It's non-lethal. And to that I say, first of all, shut up. Second of all, you are right. And this isn't permanent. I will not cheese this whole challenge, just this bit, because otherwise there'd be no kills for a really long time, and any amount of electrical current can kill a person, so I'm working off the basis that every time an enemy gets shocked by even the slightest amount of electricity, their heart stops and they die. Anyway, we add these poor unfortunates to our count and miss out on adding 4 more criminals to our count. But here's where we enter our first real predator encounter, a true test of our killer instinct. After experimenting for a while, I found this ledge, which drops about 20 feet straight onto concrete, so this was the plan: lure enemies up and send them right back down. However, the enemies are a little too smart on the harder difficulties of this game, so luring them up would prove challenging. However, we don't give up and we strive for only the best, meaning we were able to successfully drop the first 3 goons on their spines, adding 3 to the count. Jonkler begins to get jealous of our nasty KD ratio and sends in 3 more of these poor clowns. One of these guys is dropped from the same ledge his friends before him were, and we have to stalk the other 2 who seem smarter. They didn't seem to come to our trap, but one made his biggest mistake yet. He walked past a ledge, so we struck, dragging him over the ledge, and as he fell, he was caught by the structure below and displayed like a blood eagle. Wings spread, this man became a symbol for failure for the scum of Gotham. But there was still one man standing, but he met the same fate, being dropped onto a railing, smashing his back across it and falling a further few feet to his death, completing the second of the 2 trios and becoming 3 more statistics. Heading out onto the island, we find some vandals beating our sweet beloved to death, so we go and intervene, taking them down in lightning fast time, adding 5 more to the count. We grab one of the more underrated items for this run, the explosive gel, and follow Jimmy G's tobacco trail to the medical facility. On our way to the medical facility, we find 2 painters, and we don't like vandals, so we attempt to take them down with blunt force trauma after a long fall. But alas, I had no way of lifting these vandals far enough off the ground and over the ledge, nor could I knock them off this cliff, nor could I knock them into the water, so I ultimately decided to lure them over to their fellow defacers and throw them all over the ledge of this elevator, adding a massive 8 victims to the tally, easily our biggest jump so far. We break into the medical facility, scurry about in the vents for a while, and eventually get spat out in the most iconic stealth encounter in the series. Paging Dr. Bat, Silent Night, the sanatorium, however you know it, it's iconic, and today it's our kill room. Some deliberating was done, and I ultimately came to the conclusion that blowing walls outwards onto thugs would kill them. I mean, they're being smashed in the back of the head with rock at probably terminal velocity from about 5 feet, so yeah, they're dead. And as we see in the final fight of this game, the explosive gel is powerful enough to knock a Titan enhanced Joker back, so I'm using that as the basis for this rule. After some experimenting and playing around, I eventually managed to kill everyone by blowing a ceiling, a wall and a floor up with the gel, and they all got annihilated, especially this guy, holy shit. That leaves 2 victims left. One gets thrown into the same hole as his friend, and the second gets, well, he also gets thrown into that same hole. Clearing the room out as we rescue the doctors who send us to rescue more doctors, as we had 5 more victims to the tally. We head for Dr. Chen first, who springs an ambush on us as Joker tells us to fight back. I'm really glad Joker protected us from that evil doctor. The rage which flows through us after the doctor's clear attempt to ambush us means we break out into a murderous rage, electrocuting 8 men to death. We nearly saved one from that fate, but he got what was coming to him eventually, adding 8 new spots in the Arkham prisoner graveyard. We start heading to rescue Dr. Young, and have to, unfortunately, spare 3 inmates from death, but the game allows us to feed our dark passenger as we save Young from 5 thugs, killing them all with blunt force trauma to the back of the head, adding 5 to the count. After saving Young from her captors, we head to find Dr. Kellerman, and have to save 2 inmates from death, because despite my best efforts, I couldn't find a good way to steal the light from their eyes. Batman gets into the room full of Joker gas and gets a free hit, as Razor, one of Joker's biggest fans, dangles above a room full of Joker gas. Now again, I know what you're saying. Actually, he lives and he's killed by the Joker later when he's rigging gargoyles and explosives. Well, I don't care. I refuse to believe it's the same guy anyway, and so we cut the rope, feeding Om Nom, and leaving this man to marinate in the sweet stench of Joker gas. Trust me, I waited. I needed to confirm the kill. We rid the room of gas and head back into the sanatorium, sparing this high security henchman from death as we go. When we get back to the sanatorium, we're ambushed by 3 new victims who are all promptly dropped to their deaths, adding another 3 names to the list. Spoiler alert, there are no kills or opportunities to take a life between here and meeting our favourite luchador El Grande Mexicano, Bane, so we'll skip Scarecrow and fast forward to saving Jimmy G. We take Harley Quinn down and begin our fight with Bane. Bane has a few moves we can trick an enemy into running into, which we are counting as our kills, because we're manipulating them into the position to be killed, so let's count them. We get one guy killed when Bane charges at us during the second phase of his fight, another killed soon after when he charges us for the second time, another killed when we dodge a literal ton of bricks and leave an inmate in our wake in the funniest death of all time, and then one final enemy is killed as we lure Bane into his path, closing out phase 2 of Bane's fight. The third phase of Bane's fight gives us another 6 deaths to add to the counter, as Batman and Bane bring the ceiling down after their fight, presumably killing the inmates who don't make it out. I say this because if Bane had to smash his way out and Batman had to frantically look for a way out, anyone without plot armor or superhuman strength would be crushed to death. We make it out and find ourselves sending Bane and our Pookie Batmobile into the Asylum Bay, before telling Jimmy G that Bane said Dr. Young is currently healed, as we begin heading to our favourite location in the Asylum, Dead Man's Point, to dig up whatever we can about Dr. Young. After hanging up on Oracle's cold call, we find 8 more victims to add to our list, 2 of which are more of those goddamn vandals from earlier. We rounded them up and led them to their doom. I had to do some experimenting but fell back on ye old faithful elevator, throwing and punching the criminals to their death, this guy especially covering about 50 feet before hitting the ground in splendid fashion. We continue around the island to Dead Man's Point, and on our way we run across these 4 unfortunates, and it's here I came to a realisation. 3 explosive gel blasts is definitely enough to kill someone. Again, look at what it did to Titan Joker. I appreciate he was electrocuted beforehand, but the initial explosive gel blast must have been pretty strong to knock him back. So for these guys, I led them atop a tower and blew them up. One went flying over the edge, another hit his head off a metal bar and died, which left 2 more, and so I led them up the other tower, and 1 blast later they were both dead, taking 3 blasts before they met their maker. We head into Dead Man's Point and gang stalk Dr. Young. We find out she's making Titan, and funnily enough we don't care, because we get the other half of the deadly duo, the Batclaw. The Batclaw will save us so much pain when thinning the numbers of Joker's men. It means we don't even need to see the light leave their eyes as they fade out of existence, because it has a pretty good range. After procuring the Batclaw, we get to test it out on this guy who's dragged down to hell, adding 1 more onto our count and cementing the Batclaw as a valuable ally. 5 more thugs test our might, but are all quickly disposed of before you can say abyss. We meet Croc, scale the viaduct while Oracle tells us about dead babies or something, I don't know, I didn't listen, and make it back onto Arkham Island, where we need to get to Arkham Mansion to find Dr. Young's formula for what I believe is meth. It's here we meet our hardest challenge yet, an open space with 2 guys who have guns. After much deliberation, I figured the best way to deal with these guys was to drag them over the ledge and drop them directly onto their necks, which worked quite well, but then there was the small issue of the other 4 criminals waiting for us, so we blew one up, killing him, and dragged the other 3 over tall ledges with the Batclaw. 5 enemies stood between us and Arkham Mansion, but sadly we couldn't claim their lives. Our final hurdle before getting into the mansion comes in the form of 4 armed guards, all of which are dropped directly onto their C1 vertebrae and killed, allowing us easy access into the House of Horrors. 3 enemies waited at the door for us, 3 enemies were electrocuted to death. Inside Arkham Mansion we face our biggest single encounter yet, 10 new victims which I thought would escape our cold grip, but out of the corner of my eye I spotted this electrical fence, and so disposed of them pretty easily, using their own momentum against them as we add another 10 victims to the list. 6 enemies met us in the library and again were disposed by way of electrocution before Joker wanted us to save these hostages. I tried to let them die, but we outmogged Joker's false killer instinct and he didn't have it in him to kill them, so we don't get to add these to our count. We then leave the library and continue trying to find Dr. Young's meth formula. On our way out we find 2 more victims and feed them to this electric fence before finding ourselves in the records room where sadly we actually have to save lives. We do do this by ending 6 more though, dropping them on their head using the Batclaw. 3 more enemies block our path into Dr. Young's office, but they escape the cold hand of death, and after some story which we don't care about because no one gets their lives ended, 4 more enemies step up to us. Only one of them dies after being thrown through a glass window and subsequently dropped on the back of his head, killing him instantly. Sadly, the other 3 escaped their fate and survived. There was simply no way to snuff them out. We go back to the library, destroy Dr. Young's meth formula, and get gassed on the way out as we enter the second Scarecrow section. Sadly, there aren't any opportunities for us to kill anyone here, so this whole section is pointless, a hurdle we need to pass to continue our bloodlust. Sadly, we need to go and save Dr. Young against our natural murderous instinct, but on our way 2 more thugs escape our deathly touch, and after saving Dr. Young she gets blown up, an explosive end to a legacy of making us save lives, very much deserved. Harley Quinn kidnaps Quincy Sharp, the warden, so apparently we need to go and save him, but thankfully we get 4 more victims to add to the tally, all 4 being shocked to death and dying, cuddled up next to each other. On our way out of the mansion, 3 more goons get away with being murdered, absolutely soul-crushing. We continue through this annoying-ass tunnel, and what makes it even worse is that we can't even kill any of these guys, all 6 being put down, but only temporarily. They best hope we don't cross paths near any tall structures or electrical fences later on down the line. We drop this guard on his neck after letting the blood rush to his head, ensuring he can't break his fall, and then face 6 new enemies. I thought these guys would be pretty easy to take down, but for some reason an invisible wall stopped them falling over the ledge, so we fell back on our all reliable, the medical facility elevator shaft, and all 6 of them were thrown or pushed over the edge, compounding at the bottom in a mass of corpses. We head into the penitentiary, and I'll skip the filler. We don't claim another life for a while, however we do encounter the newest enemy type, the lunatic. These guys, as I'd come to find out, are basically death-proof. They can't be dragged over ledges, they can't be thrown using the special throw move since we need a 5-hit combo, and these guys go down in 1 punch, and worst of all they run quicker than us, and their jump and choke attack isn't a move we can tank and use the throw attack we get after breaking out of it to throw them over ledges, because it only takes a few of these chokes on hard difficulty to kill us, but I don't give up and I'm not adverse to bending the rules, so for these enemies only, since they're already weak as hell, a punch to the back of the head will count as a death. This comes from the ground takedown move, and I refuse to believe these already weakened Hugo Strange experiments are not dying after a 6'2", 210-pound man with metallic nubs on his knuckles pound their head into the floor. That's an insta-kill, so if any of these enemies happen to end up in that situation, they are going to be counted as a kill. Anyway, we rescue Sharp, get this useless gadget, and have to go and apprehend Harley Quinn. On our way to find her, we get jumped by this fool who falls victim to our first official CTE-induced death, before ultimately finding Harley and getting a chance to quench our thirst for blood properly. This guy's thrown to his death and fried, his friend joins him, and then the 2 final enemies of this section are fried in more familiar means against the electrical fence. 5 more thugs try their luck, but after 3 of them are thrown to their deaths and my trusty Batclaw failed me in dragging them down to my level, we have to admit defeat and 2 thugs in this section get away relatively unharmed. Quinn escapes, 2 lunatics fall the right side up and don't get killed, and after we kill these 2 guards, Quinn runs again, this time leading us to kill 2 more lunatics before getting to the absolute motherload of kills in this run, the 3 electrified floor fight. Literally everything we do here will result in a kill, so let's run through them. Electrocution, abyss, electrocution, electrocution, abyss, 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 electrocution, abyss, electrocution, abyss, 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 abyss. In total, we had another 14 kills to our count, a massive jump and our biggest yet in terms of one encounter. Oh, and we kill Harley's baby. On our way out to go and find the secret lab in the gardens, 2 lunatics escaped death, but one fell the wrong way and had his head pounded into the concrete. It was on our way out of the penitentiary that I did some experimenting on the lunatics, and came to the conclusion I gave earlier, so we carry on to the botanical gardens and get 1 free kill from a lunatic on top of the Sharp statue. We start our time in the gardens really well, grabbing 2 more kills on these guys guarding the gate before getting into another stealth encounter, and after dropping one of the thugs off this ledge, we then drag the other 4 to their deaths using the backlaw. Miss out on a handful of kills in this room where we sadly have to rescue this orderly, and our next bunch of victims are in the aviary. After sneaking past our victims to prime them for their incoming deaths, we have to miss out on 1 kill here, but then we get our grubby little mittens on 3 nice easy kills, pulling the remaining 3 guards over the ledges into the infinite abyss below. We get into the secret garden, fight 2 titans, neither of which die, and pick up the line launcher. Not particularly helpful for our mission, but that doesn't matter. We find Poison Ivy, who tells us I get to go and see my best friend in the whole entire world, Chiller Croc. Before we meet the big chiller, we get you to use our backlaw to bring 6 enemies into the abyss, before launching over there and pushing this cowardly thug, who began hiding from our backlaw pretty early on, into the black hole below. This lunatic tries his luck but is swiftly put down, and unfortunately, yet another invisible wall stops us from adding this pair to the tally. A reverse of the stealth encounter from earlier sees another 5 enemies dropped on their head using the backlaw, our real crutch for this run, and another kill isn't added to the tally until we break back into intensive treatment. This random thug, who definitely isn't the guy we dropped in Joker Gas earlier, eats shit, but that isn't our fault, so he's spared from the kill count. The same can't be said for the rest of his friends though, because instantly 4 enemies are dragged to their death, and after a little surveying of targets, 1 more is added to the count, leaving 2 who are then promptly dealt with and added to the counter after facing rough landings on their skulls. My Xbox then crashed and I got told to use the J button to continue, not sure what that was all about, but then another kill isn't added for so long. Oh my god, I began foaming at the mouth for another kill. But between our last kill and the next one, we dealt with the final Scarecrow encounter, watched Scarecrow get murdered, and then went to Chiller Croc's crack casa, and after sneaking and working our way around his house, we sadly had to drop the big Chiller into the abyss. However, he somehow survives because he simply built different. After saying goodbye to Croc, we finally get our next batch of kills, dropping 6 thugs into the abyss in what I can only describe as a truly euphoric feeling after our story-imposed kill celibacy. Personally, if I were them, I'd stop walking so close to the edge, because seeing my friends dropped into the seemingly never-ending pit below doesn't seem too fun. But who am I to complain? I'm just happy they don't see the error of their ways. We get back into our cave and grab something philosophers have described as very swag and, quote, really cool, that being the Ultra Backlaw. That's right, the normal Backlaw, which has carried us through stealth encounters in this run, has been given a fat upgrade, being given 2 extra Claws of Death, which come in very handy after yet another forced run of no kills. Our first 3 to break the run come here, when they're all simultaneously dragged down to their deaths, landing pretty badly, and to put the cherry on top, we push their friend over the same ledge, meeting the same sad and untimely death as his buddies. Our next batch of morons to end come wrapped up in the Western Pump Room. How fitting, because these guys are going to get absolutely fucked. 2 of them get thrown into a pump and killed upon impact. 1 guy grabs a gun, which I just didn't anticipate, but thankfully we throw another 2 enemies into the pumps, but life gives and takes, and without getting myself killed, I couldn't get the last 2 in the pumps, and so they got away as the lucky ones. We shut down the pump and head into the worst stealth room in the game. Seriously, I hate this damn room so much. Since I hate this room so much, I'll be brief here. Every one of these 7 bozos are dragged to their death. I didn't want to waste time here because, like I said, I hate this room so much. The hours spent trying to get all 3 stars on this challenge map as a kid have scarred me for life. 2 enemies try and jump us, but they both get blown to smithereens, adding 9 kills to the count in this room alone. Our next encounter brings us to one of our biggest kill counts in a single environment. This fight is usually hard, but doing it while trying to actively kill people is surprisingly harder. We begin with the Titan Thug, who, spoiler alert, won't die, but will be a great weapon. So again, let's go through all of the kills. Electrocution, electrocution, Titan, 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 electrocution, Titan-induced electrocution, electrocution, accidental counter, but is kicked in the ball so might have died, but definitely died when Titan Thug's body dropped on him, and so I'm also really reaching so hard for this. Electrocution, 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 and electrocution. This is an insane jump in kills, adding 22 kills onto our counter, which pleases me greatly. We make our way back onto Arkham Island, drop this guy on his head after letting the blood rush to his brain, so again, he can't protect himself, and the same fate was met by these two snipers, before we get back into the Botanical Gardens and meet these two mind-controlled Arkham guards, who were saved by an invisible wall, before we finally get into Ivy's lair and begin fighting her, because she hasn't paid her rent. Okay, now this is going to get messy, and there's a better than even chance I'll mess this up because there's a lot of things going on screen here, and so here we go. How many guards does Batman actually kill here? So there's one guy here, one slightly later on, he throws another over the ledge, and he throws another here. So by my count, this could be wrong, we only actually added 4 kills to our total here. Disappointing, because I seem to remember there being a lot more, but alas, we've made it to the end of the game. And after evicting Ivy for overdue rent and grappling back onto the island, we head over to the visitor centre to finally take our crown as the worst murderer in Arkham. Firstly, we lure these 4 thugs over to the Old Faithful elevator and only get 3 thrown over the edge, but I think you'll join me in agreeing that this last guy here definitely died. He got the punch equivalent of a curb stomp onto a stone pillar. He is dead, so that's 4 more bodies onto the tally. We couldn't get any more kills despite there being 16 potential kills in this tunnel, and eventually, after being blown up, we find ourselves face to face with Joker. Joker tells us he's jealous of us and he wants to kill us for outdoing him tonight, so he sends 2 of his big guys after us. Little does he know we like these guys, because they mean we can get more kills, so let the party begin. We start by claiming 2 bodies after luring the Titan thug their way, and another during the Titan rodeo. We then begin another rodeo and grab another kill. We then drag a guy down over a ledge for another kill, and that concludes the first section of this boss fight with 5 kills. I know we didn't manage to get everyone, but it would have required us to get more Titan rodeos or luring them over to us, and the fight would have been over too fast, but I'm pretty happy here with 5, but not completely satisfied, because we still have the final fight where we'll bump our numbers up significantly. In our final fight with Jonkler to prove who the Asylum's biggest killer really is, we instantly begin outdoing him, electrocuting 8 enemies right off the bat, no pun intended, to increase our count massively going into Joker's second phase. We then bring the Joker down to our level, knock him about a bit as he retreats back up to his pedestal, where he begins to spread lies to the Gotham City news outlets, like I have the highest body count in the Asylum, and I have the most amount of kills in the Asylum, both of which are wrong because we're here. In the second phase, we get a flurry of new victims, with 7 new names being added to the board as they all get electrocuted on this fence. What makes this even funnier is that I'm pretty sure if they all just stayed in the middle, they'd be safe. But anyway, we drag Joker down and punch his elongated chin a little more before he sends in a final batch of thugs and our final batch of victims. We add 7 victims to the tally, all by the way of electrocution, but I missed the timing to bring Joker down, so we actually get a couple more victims thrown our way, 4 to be exact, but sadly only 3 were able to be taken down. I had planned on taking the last guy down before the final cutscene, but had a brain fart and forgot there's no way you can do that, since when you pull Joker down for the final time, the game ends. So that brings our time in Arkham Asylum to an end. We killed, maimed, mutilated, and probably demonetised our way to proving that despite his no-kill rule, Batman is as twisted and evil as they come. All in all, we killed 279 inmates. A truly astonishing number that can definitely be improved upon. So if you're still here this deep into the video, why not try and do this yourself and try to improve on my score? I'd love to see how far we can push this run and how many people you can actually kill, because it is a lot of fun to play through despite its clear silliness. So thank you for watching, leave a like, and leave any other ideas for silly Arkham runs we could complete, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.